Welcome to my channel, Comic Book Noise, where we talk about my comic book company, Digital Noise, where we explain the characters and the storylines within the Digital Noise universe. So today we're going to talk about under the subject of my new title called Comic Book Issues. And what is Comic Book Issues about that I explained before in the prior video, you can check it out, is my rants and raves within the comic book industry and my experience in the comic industry as well. So, and one of the topics is, why aren't there many successful Black creators and publishers in the comic book industry? So this was a thought I had a long time ago, ever since from the 90s when I worked for Marvel and other major comic book companies up to now. I started off as a little kid growing up, and I had a love of Black Panther, Black Lightning, Luke Cage, Storm, just so many different characters of color that I grew up with and I had a connection with because of who they are, and when I found out that they were, while I was working at Marvel and DC, that all of these characters, these popular Black and minority characters, were created by non-Black creators. So I found that very interesting, which is nothing wrong with that at all. But I was wondering, why are all the successful Black and minority characters only created by white creators? Why aren't there any Black creators creating Black characters? Are there any Black creators that have created successful white characters or non-Black characters? This was something I had in my mind to question. And this was in the early 90s when I was very young, from 17 to 18 or something like that, when I started to work with Marvel and DC. With Marvel first. And but this is what I learned about the characters that I grew up with and loved. Well, we all know that the Black Panther was created by Jack Kirby and Stan Lee, and that was he was created in 1966, and then Black Lightning was created by Tony Isabella and Trevor Von Eeden in 1977. Vixen of DC Comics was created in 1981 by Jerry Conway and Bob Oskiner. Storm of the X-Men was created in 1975 by Dave Crockett and Len Wein. The Black Green Lantern was created by Dennis O'Neil and Neil Adams in 1972. And just many others were created by, and still today are created by, white or non-Black creators. So I just found that interesting. But as I was working for Marvel and during that time, I learned the ins and outs of the comic book industry. And so in 1993, there was an amazing publishing company called Milestone. And it was a milestone for its time. It was like the first publishing company that were created by all Black creators. And most of their titles were more minority-based characters of all races, basically, that told a different view of the story from their artistic vision. And it was a great publishing company. I don't know why it's not in existence today. I think it's owned by DC Comics, and I don't know why they don't want to revive a lot of these characters within the Milestone and DC franchise. But this is a great milestone within the industry where Black creators created content and storylines, no matter what the storyline. They were I think they were pretty successful during that time, and I even got the chance to work for them as an illustrator at the time. I think it was 1993 or maybe 1993 or 4 or 5. I drew a couple of issues of Hardware and a couple of issues of Icon, which I had the pleasure to do. I was very young though, so I wasn't very disciplined, and just everything was life changing for me and all this other stuff during that time. So that was a great experience. But I after that, then I decided to create my own comic book in the early 2000s because I was learning the industry and mostly inside out, what I thought. And I didn't have the confidence back then to start in the 90s because I was really young. So I didn't know how to achieve that and everything. But in the new millennium, when the turn of the new millennium started in 2001, 2002, I started to get the spirit of just doing and publishing my own stories and my own titles. And my first issue, my first title, I should say, was Delete. And Delete was pretty much a great success as an independent comic book creator and publisher. And I published my own comic book under my own comic book publishing company called Digital Noise. And my first issue was Delete, #1. And it actually sold out in one day, basically all over. I was told by Diamond. And it was kind of unprecedented for an independent at that time to sell out that quickly. And, because we got like little to mild low orders, and it sold out basically in one day, 1 week or something like that. And so I got all these reorders and I wasn't prepared for it. I thought I was just going to start off as a comic book. And so it was just a lot of bumps and bruises learning the comic book industry and the finances, dealing with that and all that stuff. So, but my book Delete was pretty much a success. And then I got so many requests for a second, to where they can find the book, because I think I published all the way up to issue 5. So I just kept getting people from all over the world asking me where they can get the issue of Delete and everything. And also the same thing with my second comic title called The Positive Omen. So it was just, but what I found out that these companies, that the comic book stores were not fans of ordering independent titles, because they would order a ton of Marvel and DC comic books, but they would never take a chance on an independent comic. I felt it as a Black publisher, depending on the comic book stores, would me being a Black creator have something to do with these stores certain stores ordering my titles? And that's something you have to think about, especially in this world today, especially what we're dealing with now and things are being talked about now and exposed today. Especially back then in the early 2000s, was me being young and, all this stuff, and having a Black created comic book by a Black creator, was that an issue? That's something I had to deal with as a Black creator. So that was on my mind, because certain people have certain prejudices and isms all over the world, and that's not even excluding comic book shop owners and things like that. I'm sure that's it also has to do with being an independent publishing company. So there are so many hurdles you have to go through to make your comic book successful. So this is something that I found uh, there were some invisible hurdles that I might have to jump over. And also, you have to deal with the comic book industry itself, because if one of the major companies find your book a threat or something like that, or maybe becoming big, they can stop a lot of your promotions. They can stop. There's a lot of networking going on in the industry, and as we're finding out that some companies may bully you into, or bully other companies, or advise them not to promote your book, or dealing with Diamond. They have big deals with Diamond, so they say this and this and that, or just things that I don't have any proof of or anything like that. But could that be a hurdle that a comic book creator, myself, would have to go through? So these are the questions I have as a comic book creator, and I think that everybody has room to tell their stories, whether you're an independent comic creator. It doesn't have to end all be all be only Marvel and DC. There could be other companies that are black owned that could be a big contender as well. I create all kind of stories, not only black stories for black people. I create white characters. I create Indian characters. I do my research and create some Jewish characters. All of the above. So I was wondering, are there, for the audience, is there a difference between a non-black person telling stories and creating characters versus a black person creating stories and creating characters, and how does the public view that? Even in our own community, even in the black community where I come from, do they see a difference? Because I know a lot of black comic book lovers will only stick with Marvel and DC no matter what. They don't care who or whatever, but it's time that we stop. Because now, in the climate we're in, as we know of, since the whole uprising of equality and equal justice for everyone, and as well as civil rights, it should go into all facets of our lives, as far as justice, as far as quality of living, such as working industries. And I'm doing my part in showing diversity in entrepreneurship in the comic book industry, and it's in entertainment as well. So this is why I created the hashtag that's kind of like a spin-off of Black Lives Matter. I call it Black Comic Book Creators Matter. And you'll see the hashtag right below. And that's what it means. And so this is what my cause is. This is my contribution to showing equality and showing that we all have stories and we all have a different outlook and we all can create and we can all be as one. I mean, Marvel and DC and other companies that are very popular and that the public takes in, they're all basically all white owned, which is nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying that, but let's include comic book companies that are also black creator owned as well. We have a view, we have a vision, and we want our work to be seen and known throughout the world as well, just as much as Marvel or DC or anyone else. And so let's support each other. I love Marvel. Marvel and DC, they're like the introduction to this world of comic books, of the comic book industry. and that led me to want to be a comic book creator. So I have no ills or qualms with Marvel or DC at all. They're like the example and of what I want my company, Digital Noise, to be, and that's what I'm striving for. And I want to elevate the comic book industry in a different way. I want to impact the comic book industry in my own way, to change the comic book industry to another level. And so I hope we all can. As a creator, I need to ask you this: if there are any minorities that are comic book creators out there listening, send me your comments. Give me your experience. If you have any experience similar to mine or different than mine, it's something you can add or you want to explain about. It'll be interesting to see what your experience has been, or your vision of what you want with your creation and your what you want to contribute to the industry as well as a person of color. And especially I would like to hear the Black creators, which were basically Black creator owned comic books, which are basically kind of invisible to the public, and how you can work your ideas of what you want for your comic book to flourish as well. So in what direction you want that to go in. So I think that's it. That's all I have to say. That's all I got. So if you like what you're hearing, like, subscribe, and share. So be careful out there and take care.